So is it time to hit the panic button? Honestly, I'm no astronaut, but based on the numbers and the statistics that I'm looking at, I can tell you that I have some serious concerns about the Nova Scotia housing situation. The Nova Scotia housing situation is currently in a troubling state. We have basically a 0% vacancy rate, rents have skyrocketed, home prices have skyrocketed, and according to the 5-year housing plan released by the Nova Scotia government back in October of 2023, we're currently about 27,000 units short across the province, and this is expected to grow to over 71,000 units by 2027. So is it time to get concerned about the housing crisis here in Nova Scotia? Personally, I would say yes, it is. And no, before all you keyboard warriors jump on there and get in the comments about the market crashing, I'm not talking about a market crash. I do not see that happening anytime in the near future, but in terms of the overall housing situation in our province and across the country, I am definitely getting concerned. Now, just before I get into it, if you're new here, my name is Andrew Stevens, and I've been a realtor in Halifax for 9.5 years. And if you want to be educated on the Halifax and Nova Scotia real estate markets, then you're in the right place. So hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to book a call or meet with me to chat about real estate, or if you're thinking about making a move in the Halifax-Dartmouth area, you can reach out to me anytime through the Calendly link below in my description at a time when it's convenient for you. Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper into some of the numbers and some of the stats that I mentioned in the intro. Currently, we're basically at a 0% vacancy rate in our rental market. The last official number that I could find was 0.3%, which was released by CMHC. Rents have skyrocketed, and we currently have one of the highest average rent costs in the country. As of last year, Halifax had the second highest average rent in Canada, according to rentals.ca. However, on the flip side, we have the third lowest wages and salary in the country, as well as the overall cost of living in Nova Scotia is extremely high. The 27,000 home deficit was a number in the 5-year housing plan. And by the way, we're only building about 4,500 homes per year, give or take. According to the Nova Scotia 5-year housing plan, we're expected to need 71,600 housing units built. And with the current pace of construction, we'll need to come up with about 41,000 more on top of that. So honestly, this is an impossible goal. Yes, we can bring in more workers to build these, but guess what? They need a place to live as well. We're adding a huge number of people to the province every year, and guess what? They all need places to live. Home prices have also seen a huge increase, and since 2020, we've increased by about 55%, which truthfully is extremely hard to believe. And last but certainly not least, the Bank of Canada is likely going to begin to start dropping the overnight rate in 2024, and the fixed rates also look like they're projected to be decreasing. As this happens, I would expect there to be upward pressure on housing prices again, meaning prices will likely increase even further. So all of this to say, we have nowhere near enough housing. The housing that we do have is not really affordable to the masses. We're not building enough housing, especially based on the population growth that we're seeing year over year. And the wages and salaries are not nearly keeping up with the overall cost of housing, whether it be resale homes for sale or whether it be the rental market, and even just the cost of living in general is really getting out of control. So is it time to hit the panic button? Honestly, I'm no astronaut, but based on the numbers and the statistics that I'm looking at, I can tell you that I have some serious concerns about the Nova Scotia housing situation. So where do we go from here? Well, that's an interesting question, and truthfully, I don't foresee any major changes being resolved in our marketplace anytime soon, whether it be the resale purchase market or whether it be the rental market. So I don't foresee the market conditions changing anytime in the next few years. Based on the current supply and demand issues that we're seeing in both the resale market and the rental markets, it's hard to imagine that this landscape and these market conditions are going to change anytime in the foreseeable future. But on the other hand, it's almost hard to imagine that we're not approaching some sort of a breaking point based on the overall cost of living, based on the wages and salaries not keeping up, and based on the housing prices, the rental prices, and just the overall cost of living in Nova Scotia. But at the end of the day, there's a huge gap between supply and demand, and I don't see this gap narrowing anytime soon, especially in the next few years or so. So I think we're likely to remain relatively in the market conditions that we're seeing currently across the province of Nova Scotia. Don't get me wrong here, the government has been making a lot of announcements lately, and they're making a big push to try to help get more supply in the housing sector. So they're building more public housing. We're getting money for the federal accelerator fund. We're seeing major changes coming down the pipeline for the zoning in Halifax with the center plan. And all of this is great and every bit helps. And they're doing a lot more than that as well. Those are just some of the main ones. But the reality is, we kicked the can down the road so far, and we should have been doing these things 10 years ago. And truthfully, with the cost of land and the cost of labor and the labor shortage and the cost of materials and the interest rates, we're not likely to see a huge push from the private sector either. So I think we're just really going to be short on housing for years and years to come, and we're not going to see the supply and the demand gap get narrower anytime soon. And it's not that all these things aren't great that they're doing. Every announcement helps and every little bit they're doing helps. Don't get me wrong. But we needed these things 5, 10, or even 15 years ago to keep pace with where we're at right now. At the end of the day, nobody truly knows where this is going to go, but I can tell you that I would be very surprised to see any major changes on the ground level anytime soon. And I think that with the supply issues that we have and the overall situation that we're in, we're not likely to see any major changes in the market conditions that consumers are likely to see on the ground in terms of availability of housing and in terms of pricing of housing. So those are kind of the two big key factors that we'd like to see get better. And unfortunately, I don't see that happening anytime soon. And it's not like I'm expecting a market crash, and it might get a little bit better, but overall, we need a load of housing to make this situation any better from a consumer perspective on the ground level. Now, if you're still here watching, I would love to hear what you think about this. Do you think the market's going to crash? Do you think that the supply is going to start catching up with all these different initiatives the government is putting in place? Or do you think there's going to be a big push from the private sector as rates start to come down? I would be curious to hear what you think about this overall. And are you thinking as negatively about it as I am, which again is unfortunate. I don't love making these negative videos, but this is where we're at. These are the stats. These are the facts. This is where the housing situation is in Nova Scotia currently. And if you're still here watching and you got any value out of this video, all I ask is that you hit that like button and you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future content. And that'll help push this out to more people like you who may be interested in watching videos about the Halifax and Nova Scotia real estate markets. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support and have a great day.